Welcome to the Homeownership Podcast presented by Momentum Realty, located in Hanover, Massachusetts. This series covers all things real estate and the best practices for buying, selling, and owning properties. Now here's your host, Sean Maloney.
Welcome to episode 174, Writing a Cash Offer. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Maloney. Thanks for joining me this week. This week I want to talk to you about writing a cash offer. A lot of people throw the word cash out like it's just such an impressive thing, which it is, but it isn't. What do I mean by that? Well, cash is king most of the time, but one thing I want you all to remember is when someone comes in with a pre-approval that's strong and they're making a very similar offer or stronger offer than cash offer, most sellers are going to look at that like the same as they look at the cash offer. As long as they have a strong pre-approval, strong deposits, everything, it's not much that cash offer offers differently, especially if somebody decides to write a cash offer and have a home inspection, have an appraisal contingency, have a slow closing. Those are the things that can really bring it right back to being very similar to a regular financed offer. Now, mind you, you don't have to have a home inspection to finance a home. That's not a must. That's something that you can or can't do. The home inspection is for the buyer's use only, because ultimately the bank is not looking for that. They use the appraisal. The appraisal is where they're going to come out and check out the house and make sure that everything is the way it was. They take photos of the house. They look it over. A lot of times when you hear VA lending, people say the VA inspection, but again, that's an appraiser as well. Appraisers are out looking at those things. So when we have a cash offer and we add an appraisal contingency, that's how it kind of becomes very similar to a financed offer, right? Because if you have the appraisal contingency that says it must appraise at this value, then you have the appraiser out, the appraiser points out issues, are you going to then walk away from the deal? So that's what concerns some of the sellers with cash offers that have too many contingencies. Now, mind you, your cash offer, you don't have to drop any contingencies. You certainly welcome all the protections you want, but in order to make it as attractive as possible, some of them are easier to waive than others. And in the appraisal one, you can be more lenient, right? Because the bank says, I don't want to finance unless the numbers work, but you can say, okay, I'm willing to accept a $50,000 appraisal gap or whatever number it is that you're comfortable with, right? But don't put yourself in an uncomfortable position just because you cash. Now, with cash, we see lots of different types of people in the cash, right? We see people who are just very high net worth individuals, right? Buying houses. They usually have a lot of power in their negotiation because they don't need the house. They want the house, but they don't need the house. So they can work a little slower. They can write a lower offer and see if the seller comes back to them. They can make the seller wait. They can do things like that. Obviously, it's all market-based. Like right now, not easy to make a seller wait because they'll sell the house without you, because houses often are selling for over asking. But when you find a deal, as a cash buyer, you usually can sit around a little longer and you can end up, saving yourself a couple thousand, tens of thousands. And remember, every bit counts, right? At the end of the day, a lot of people don't look at money truly what it is. When we get into real estate, we start talking 300,000, 500,000. So then we talk about $1,000 and we just act like, oh, it's only $1,000. Well, if you were to take $1,000 in pennies or $1 bills, you'd realize how much money it really is, right? It's quite a bit of money. And $1,000 would take most people anywhere from, say, an entire week to 2 weeks or a half a week to earn on their payroll. So that's an impressive amount of money. So when we're working in these things, we want to make sure that everyone understands what we're doing and how we're moving the numbers around, because cash can get confusing even to you, the cash buyer. You can end up paying too much for something if you're not careful with it. And also when working with cash, make sure to check with your money manager and your attorney. Both of them have an important role in this. So when writing a cash offer, there's a few places we can vary. So if we start at the top, right, we work our way down the offer from the buyer to the seller. We get into what is the purchase price. That's one where sometimes we can use a little more power because with cash, right, we don't have to offer them as much sometimes, depending on the situation. You always want to get guidance from your real estate agent or move mentor, depending on if you're working with us or another agent. You definitely want to check that. Now, as we work our way down our deposits, we usually want to put a decent deposit down when we are working with cash. It's a security blanket for the person, gives them a good feeling about us. After that, we have the different dates, right? We have the purchase and sale agreement date. Now, you got to talk with your own attorney, but most attorneys usually say give it a week. That way they have enough time to go back and forth with the other attorney and they can see that the P&S gets drafted correctly. You can actually skip over a contract to purchase and you can go straight to a purchase and sale agreement. I've done that before for attorneys where they say they're ready to move. If that's how you want to roll, you just talk with your attorney and have them draft that up and your agent will submit it in. Or if you're looking to use the Mass Association of Realtor standard form, they could also submit that in as basically similar to an offer, but right into that. Now, other things we have, the home inspection, like I said, you can drop it, not drop it, put it in for days, put in it's subject to a fixed cost, however you want to work that one. Now, the other date that comes off of the PNS is the commitment letter date for finance people, right? We don't have one of those because we don't need a commitment letter because we have the financing and funding already in place. We're a cash deal. And last but not least, there's the closing date. So the closing date on cash deals, it can actually be relatively quickly. You can't just come up with a number because you need to make sure the attorney who's going to do the title search and all that type of stuff is going to be ready for it, as well as that all the money's going to be there in place and ready at the time you want to do it. So typically speaking, most cash deals at minimum, usually 15 days. But again, get guidance from your folks. And if you're not working with us over here at Momentum Realty, reach out to us and get one of our Move mentors to help you out. They can really help you navigate that whole process to make sure you understand the questions you need to be asking and who you need to ask them to. And then on the money manager side of things, one important thing to remember is I know you have the cash, but where is the cash? What do I mean by that? Well, is it in a 401k? Is it in a stock? Is it in a mortgage on another house? Because when we go to do this, we need to know how long will it take you to access that money? And can you use all of it? Is that within your financial plan? I know you have $600,000 in your bank account, but does your money manager think you should spend $600,000 on the house? Those are conversations that you might want to have with them, but you definitely want to have as far as how long until it is available to me, because that's something that's going to tell the person, when you can actually close. Now, last but not least is called proof of funding. So a proof of funding is basically similar to a pre-approval, but instead of saying that you're approved for the funds, it's a bank statement, a 401k statement, a mortgage showing that you own the home, whatever you have there. That's what is going to prove that you have the funding available to actually make the deal happen. Now, remember, when you go to make the deal happen, you're going to need to move all that funding out. So is there any sort of delay time to getting access to that money? All right, guys. Well, if you're thinking about writing a cash offer, reach out to us over here at Momentum Realty. We'd love to help you. One of our Move mentors could guide you in buying, selling, and owning homes and make sure that in the future, all your cash sales go smooth as can be. Thanks again. I look forward to talking to you next week.